going to make sure you grab these safety glasses, and you'll notice they're numbered, that belong to your station. So when it's your turn, if you're in station 1, you're going to come up, grab station 1 safety glasses, put them on.
For your hovercraft, you are going to need a variety of tools, and those will get pointed out in the...
Now your instructor will point out if you need test batteries. In my room, they're right here in the holder next to the solder. If you need a pen, right at the beginning, they're once again right over here in the holder, and they are marked with a number for your station. So the pens are right here, test batteries are right here, solder's right here on the corner of my teacher desk in my room.
You're going to need a variety of tools. One of the very first things you and your partner need to do is take your safety glasses and put them on. You're then going to go to the tool location and get a variety of tools. So we're going to start with showing you how to plug these in and how to put them away carefully and safely. With the soldering iron, you should find that when you pull this out, right, you'll notice there aren't any lights on. It's not plugged in. It could be warm though from the previous class, so do not touch the metal part right here. We hold it once again, like the safety test said, by the handle. But you'll notice when I pull this out, it's wound around the holder. And you'll see that the part that plugs in is pulled tight against the holder. So when we go to put it away, I'm going to demonstrate that this gets pulled in tightly against here, and then we wrap it up. But to plug it in, I unwrap it so that I can pull this cord through the holder. Then at your station, you're going to have a power strip, and you're going to come over and you're going to plug your soldering iron in to the holder, making sure that there aren't any cords, such as the headphone cords that you'll be wearing, right? The mouse cord, making sure there's nothing over here and that this cord is not laying on top of anything hot. So I have that all pushed back and plugged in. Now you're going to notice that the lights have come on. That tells us that our power strip is on. If for some reason you wouldn't see any lights, your power strip is most likely turned off. Check with your instructor, they'll show you how to turn that back on. But so once again, I make sure the cords are not anywhere near the hot end of the soldering iron. I'm then going to take my glue gun, and once again, you can see how it's wrapped around the middle. I'm going to very carefully undo the glue gun, remembering that this metal part right here, the warning sticker says will burn flesh, that's the hot part. I unwind the cord all the way from the glue gun. I then go ahead and set it down, once again making sure it's not touching any of the wires, and I plug my glue gun in. Once again down here on the power strip. Okay, so I have my soldering iron plugged in, my glue gun plugged in. They're now both going to be warming up. Now when you are done using the soldering iron and glue gun, you're going to unplug them. Make sure you pull at the end of the soldering iron and the end of the glue gun. All right, so don't pull by the cord, pull by the actual end. Now with the soldering iron, you're going to make sure solder gets put back in the bin that your instructor showed you. Sandpaper would get put back where you were shown to get it from. But you're going to take your soldering iron. You have the power cord. You're going to pull that power cord all the way in. Once it's pulled in and against the holder, you can take the wire and you can wrap it around, going counterclockwise, the holder till you get back into the end. And so you would put the holder back, cords wrapped up, this would then be ready to be put away. With the glue gun, you're going to go ahead and hold it down here by the handle, take the cord, wrap it right around the center, making sure the cord isn't touching the hot metal, right? And you would go ahead, put it back in the holder after you've wrapped the cord around the middle. Now, if you did everything correctly, your wires should easily reach the brass tabs. If they don't, check with your instructor. They can see if they can help you get something moved around or adjusted. But what you're going to do is, once again, we've made these little hooks, and we're going to make a hook out of our wire. And what we're going to do is we're going to slide it underneath, and we're going to bend that wire across the brass tab and kind of pull it tight. Right? And if you need to, you can kind of bend it down and inside, but the wire will bend. Right? You can kind of bend it so it hooks around and hangs on to where you need it. You're going to do the same on the other side. So you have one wire on one side of the battery, one wire on the other side of the battery. And we're going to bend around, putting our wires in, trying to make sure it's a circle and that you're not crossing your wires. If you do, it's not the end of the world, but you want to try to keep them from crossing. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to bend and hook your wires onto those brass tabs. Now, once you have them all hooked up, you're going to go ahead and solder once again. But once again, you're going to move this to the soldering iron and you're going to walk over to it. Now, you're going to have your piece of solder. And once again, if you need to clean your soldering iron up again, you can. But you're going to make sure that you have your safety glasses on. And sometimes if your wire's not wanting to stay on, you might need to have your partner help hold it in place, right? Just have them kind of hold the wire on one end. But you're going to go ahead, be careful not to touch the plate because it will melt, but if it does, you can fix it with a little duct tape. But you're going to come in and you're going to hold this right up against the wire and the brass tab. Bring the solder in, let it melt. Once again, 1 1000, 2 1000, 3, let it go. Kind of see it run on the brass tab. Let it go. So once again, I held the solder in for a couple seconds worth of solder, and then I let it run along the brass tab. I come over, I do the same thing, right up against the wire and the brass tab. Bring the solder in, 1 1000, 2 1000. Hold it on the solder till it starts to run. Let go. Once again, if you need to turn your plate, turn your plate. Hold it against the wire, the brass tab. Let it melt. 1 1000 if it starts melting. 1 1000, 2 1000. Let it run onto the wire or the brass tab. Let your soldering iron off the tab. So you can see how the solder starts to run like a puddle, right? Doesn't look like a BB or bead. I then go to my last one, hold it against the brass tab, count 1 1000, 2 1000 when it starts melting. If I need a little more, hold it on there till it runs onto the brass tab. Let go when it starts running. And you can see how it kind of melted and ran on the brass tab. So you should see it kind of run on, and they should be nice solid connections. Now there might be the chance, you can see I got a little tiny hole right here. That hole will be okay, but if I wanted, I could take some duct tape. Right? I could tear off a quick little small piece, and I could put a little patch on top of that hole back here. Right? So if you have solder come through or you melt a hole, just take a little duct tape, patch up any holes that you make. Now, our hovercraft is almost ready to race. We have just a couple of things that we need to do yet. Our hovercraft is all put together, everything's soldered nice and well. If I look down below and I see my switch right here, and I can see it's over here on the right, I could figure out which way is on or off before I ever put any batteries in it. So if you find where the solder connection is, and right here it's above my finger, so I move the switch over, right over here, if it's on top of it once again, it means it's on. And I could take a pen, and on this side I could write on. And over here, I could say off, if it's off to the side. So I'm going to turn my hovercraft off when I go to test it out. Now there's times when you go to test it out that this propeller may fly off and hit you in the head. So once again, make sure you have safety glasses on. You're going to get your test batteries from up by your instructor, right? And once again, you grab the ones for your station, and you're going to put a battery in. But what I want you to notice is on the battery, there's a little bump on one side, which means positive. It's flat on the other side, which means negative. you're going to go ahead and you're going to put your batteries in. And you're going to have the negative one way, positive the other way. And if you put everything together, you're going to make sure that they go opposite directions. So right now I got the plus pointing away from me. So on this other side, I'm going to make the plus pointing towards me. And I'm going to go ahead and put the battery in. All right, and so I have my battery all in place. Now I'm going to turn my hovercraft on. And if it doesn't float, right, so if I go like this, and I feel air. So if I lift it up and I feel air hitting me this way, I have not made a hovercraft. Right? If the air is blowing out at you from this end, so it's blowing out this way, I've not made a hovercraft. I've made a vacuum cleaner. And what do we know about vacuum cleaners? Hopefully you know the answer is they suck. Right? I don't want to make a hovercraft that sucks. I want a hovercraft that blows. Right, so I need that air to go the opposite direction. So if it's going the wrong direction, I'm going to take the batteries out and I'm going to flip them. Right, so I'm going to make the positive go the other direction. All right, so I pop that battery out, put the battery in on the other side. And once again, I can turn it on. Now my hovercraft's floating away from me, right? You can see it's floating away. It's no longer sucking to the table. I now have a working hovercraft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for that bump, and I find it there, and I'm going to write a plus sign for positive with my pen. And then over here I'm going to write a dash for negative. I'm going to go to my other battery, and I'm going to mark this so it's ready for race day. And I'm going to mark that with a plus. And I'm going to mark this other side with a negative. We have a plus sign, we got a negative sign, and it matches our battery, and we know it's working. I got an on, and I got an off, clearly labeled, right? So you can see it turns on, turns off, right? Once I have this all done like this, I'm going to go ahead and give those batteries to my partner if they need to check theirs, or I'm going to put them away if we're both done. But if there's still time between now and race day and you want to decorate it, check with your instructor. They'll have some markers you can use to color the plate, color the paper, and make it all pretty and yours. Right? The one thing I'll warn you, you can draw on it, the marker will stay, but it will also come off on your hands a little bit. So just be aware of that if you're putting it out here on the rim, right? It's going to rub off on your hands as you're holding it, but if you color in up here, it's not going to be as much of an issue. Now you would make sure all of your tools are put away, your tapes put away, anything you've had out is put away. If you got a pen from your instructor, it goes back to your holder. On race day, you will get 2 rubber bands. You simply take the rubber band and you bend it over, right? Fold it over so it becomes 1 rubber band, and you put it around your batteries to hold them in place. Right? So some people are going to come up to me and they're going to say, mine only works when I go like this with my thumb and finger. That's because you have to hold it against the batteries. On race day, so you don't have to hold it against the batteries, you're going to get rubber bands. And you're going to take them and you're going to put them around the batteries. Now you might still have to bend the brass tab a little bit to make sure that they're touching, but the batteries are just going to make sure they're connected as possible. Okay? But you will get actual batteries for race day, so do not keep the test batteries in, they go back. You'll get your rubber bands on race day, so do not ask for the rubber bands or batteries until race day. They're part of your lab fee though. You'll get to take them home, the batteries and the hovercraft.